And we are rolling now. What's up, Matt Marsoupian, Keller Williams Advantage in Novi? How are
How's
you,
it going?
brother?
I'm great, Joe. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Matt, of course, you have a specific role outside of just being a realtor that we'll get to, but first and foremost, real estate agent, realtor for quite a while now, really. I mean, I think you used to have like a full head of hair. You kind of look like a rocker. And so I can see it's catching up. And I'm getting there. I mean, I got the bald spot going and stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um, but no, in all seriousness, I guess let's start off with like, how'd you get into real estate? Why'd you get into real estate and things like that?
sure. Yeah, good question. I have not been selling resale for too long, actually, but I've been in real estate my entire professional career. And how I got started was actually in new construction sales. So my dad has always been in the real estate business in terms of building, construction, supplies. I remember going to new home models when I was a kid, right? And my parents actually built a Pulte home when I was young, and when I was approaching graduation from college, there was the career fair, right? They come to your college and different people talk to you, and at that point, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. To be honest, I was in business. I didn't think I wanted to do anything sales related, so I avoided the sales program from the University of Western Michigan where I went. But the Pulte Homes at that time, this was early 2000s. Real estate was still booming right at that time. This was before the recession. But they came and were talking to people there at Western about sales for new construction. I thought to myself, well, what cooler thing to sell than a house, right? So I went through the interview process and I was approaching graduation and I got offered a position and started right after I graduated. I moved back home with my parents for a little bit and started working in sales for Pulte Homes. And I did that for about 5 years until the recession hit.
Yeah, and it was quite the recession. That I mean, everybody remembers it, but obviously it depends on where you're at. And I mean, us here in Michigan really got slammed.
Yeah.
And I actually bought a Pulte home with my wife. That was our first purchase
Oh yeah.
out in basically Ypsilanti. Superior Township was where it was at. But it was one of those things where we bought in '04, so we were probably near the top of the market. We weren't quite there because I had neighbors buying for more than we bought for, but we were pretty close to the top. And then, when the bottom fell out, it fell out quickly and it fell hard. So, on a couple $100,000 house, when you saw a loss of over $100,000, it was, kind of disheartening, right? And I think we still see that with people today, don't we? Like they're still worried about that happening to them again. And they've been worried about it since the market started recovering.
Yeah. It was interesting because, I remember in hindsight during that time period, right? I got to see the tail end of some really good times, right? And then I started, and from '04 to '08, '09, it was slow, right? In hindsight, it went really fast, but while we were in it, it felt like it was kind of slow. And what I mean by that is, I was working in a model, right? You'd have people come in and they would want to buy a home, and there would be no qualms about writing an earnest money deposit check and contracting to build a house. Even if they had a home to sell, it was like, oh, we'll just put it on the market, we'll sell it, and we'll figure it out, right? And then slowly, right, incentives started getting bigger, sales pace started slowing. People had a hard time selling their homes. And I remember we implemented all these strategies, right? No one really was talking about staging, right? So we were providing staging services for people at that time because their previous home, right? We were partnering with realtors because I was focused just on the new construction side. We were partnering with realtors who would be able to help clients sell their home and staging it and all of that kind of stuff. And then slowly started to get worse and worse, and then it was people not being able to sell their house, and then they would just cancel on the new construction sale. I had a one in Northville. I remember specifically these people walked from a $25,000 earnest money deposit. And at the time, I thought they were crazy, but in hindsight, it probably was a great idea. It made a lot of sense for them overall because, they were about to close on a property that, like you said, went down probably, $150,000 in the next few years. So with this environment that we're seeing recently, with these prices going up and up and up, I mean, it's still in people's memory of what happened then. And I understand the apprehension that people might have, thinking that might happen, again. But, there's a lot of different factors going on. Of course, you've talked about a number of them why the experts say this will or will not result in another housing, crash. But I wish I had a crystal ball, because if I went back, right, 2010, 2011, 2012, you saw these properties that were a quarter, right? And then, if you would have known what we know now, right, where they bounce way back. I've got a client buying a $180,000 house in Highland, and I look back, and the buyers, or the owners, the sellers, bought it for $40,000.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But at the time, that was probably thought of as risky, because no one knew what was going to happen.
Right. Oh, if you bought a house, even if you had to buy a house because you were moving or something, you were considered crazy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different factors that we have to look at today than a decade or longer ago, as to why markets will shift or won't shift or what have you, and why it will be more of a shift than drastic change, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, none of us have the exact answer. There's no way to know for sure. Clearly, things like wars or quote novel coronaviruses or something like that, those things all change, and we certainly have no way of knowing that there's any of that or not any of that on the horizon.
Yeah.
So we can only use economics, we can only use data, and we can only use what we do know. And there one day will be a downturn. It's just the way things go.
Yeah.
But it certainly should not be what, unfortunately, many of us experienced, now 15 years ago, but it still seems like yesterday.
Yeah,
I can recall a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So when Pulte Homes merged with Centex Homes, this was kind of 2008, 2009. They mothballed a lot of communities in Metro Detroit, just at a point where they weren't selling. They didn't want to staff them and have a construction, and they got very, very lean. And at that time, I left, and I saw opportunity in commercial real estate at that time. And what I mean by opportunity was there was a lot of office buildings and commercial real estate that was going into receivership. And I went to go work for a company called Friedman Real Estate Group. They're in Farmington Hills, one of the biggest ones in Metro Detroit, and actually pretty big now nationally. But they had partnership through property management, where they would get receivership of buildings. They would release them, refurbish them, and whatnot. And that was a really interesting learning experience. What I learned was that I did not like commercial real estate, right? That business to business relationship really wasn't for me. Although I learned a lot, and I'm grateful for the experience. I was looking for opportunity to stay in real estate, but again, at that time, residential real estate in Michigan wasn't that great. So I reconnected with some people that I worked with at Pulte Homes, and went to go work for a company that a few of them had started called Marketplace Homes. And that company was basically a hybrid brokerage property management company, where we were working with builders across the country and helping people who wanted to buy a new home, but had been stuck with their starter home, right? That they were underwater with. They didn't want to sell, or they couldn't sell rather, but they didn't want to foreclose or short sale. So they wanted to rent it out or have some sort of property management solution for it. So we would take that on, guarantee that, and then help them buy a new home and get paid a commission by the builder. So it was a really good business model at that time that was very needed. And we accumulated over 2,000 properties across the country that we managed, and grew exceptionally. Like we went from 10 people to like 100 people.
Sure. Well, like you said, I mean, it was a business model that was needed.
Yeah.
Didn't Marketplace have another aspect of their business with like, if you don't sell it, we'll buy it type of thing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, so at the beginning of the business model, no one wanted to buy the houses, right? Because they were completely upside down. But as the market improved and people could start to sell, right? We had to shift a little bit. And that's when it was, we'll sell your home at a discount, or we'll buy it if we can't sell it. So there was a lot of different, aspects to the model that made sense, and also different parts of the country, because we saw a lot of parts of the country recover a lot faster than others. It was interesting how the Midwest was hit really hard and early. And then I had a lot of friends in real estate that went to go work in Arizona, in Vegas, and different places, right, where the crash kind of eventually came to them, right? And then they experienced it, and they arguably fell even harder.
I would agree. I was looking at property out there. I mean, I tried to convince my wife back then, like, look at this house. I mean, it's the same as what we purchased, and it's 1,000 square feet bigger. It's got a pool with a grotto and a hot tub. And, I think it comes with a pool boy too, and I was just like, it's crazy. And so I think you're right. They did get hit harder because it happened so fast, right?
Yeah.
Like, we kind of saw it and it happened quickly, but it was like, down 10,000, down 10,000, down 10,000, down. And they were just kind of like, here we are, boom, you just dropped 50, 100K just overnight seemingly. And I'm sure that wasn't the case, but it sure seemed like it from my perspective. So
yeah. So fast forward, I was part of this company that was doing amazing things, worked with some great people, but it wasn't, this was early, or, mid 2011, 12, 13. We didn't, we were trying to do everything to everyone. And we talk a lot about this in real estate, right? Like that technology is going to take our jobs, or people say this or say that. And at the end of the day, we were trying to utilize technology to do all these solutions. And it really was dropping the ball in terms of customer service, which I'm a big proponent of. And, it felt just like we were constantly getting yelled at and making people upset. I was out to lunch one day with my good friend, Mark Schaffner, and former business partner. And we were both there at Marketplace, and we decided to, basically just leave it all and start our own residential brokerage. And we knew how to market properties. We knew how to sell properties. Granted, at that time, I had never sold a resale property though.
Sure.
But I knew the formula, right? I knew the service. And we said, okay, let's do it. So we jumped. And at that time, we really didn't give the big real estate companies a lot of look. We, kind of lumped them all together, the Keller Williams, the Remaxes, the Century 21s. And we were looking to start our own brokerage. Naively, of course, right? We thought we'd reinvent the wheel.
Why should I pay somebody else?
Exactly.
I'll just keep it all in my pocket. So easy.
Exactly. Yeah. So we were looking for kind of a real estate business in a box. And that's when we came across Next Home, who I know you're a part of. I don't have anything but great things to say with that organization. The people that run it are top notch. They've really built something pretty amazing in a very competitive real estate space. And we bought a Next Home franchise. We committed just to a year, but it was basically a real estate brokerage in a box, and it gave us everything from a marketing, branding standpoint. But keep in mind, I was the broker, right? It was Mark and I. We didn't know what we didn't know. And, regardless, we still sold $15 million our first year. And, just heavily relying on our sphere of influence, right? All the things we knew that would make us successful, we just did. And we had both quit our jobs, and really had burned the boats. So it was, and this is a conversation for brand new agents, right? Everybody wants to dabble in this business part-time, and they don't know when they're going to make that switch. And it's really hard because unless you jump in feet first, you'll kind of never really make that switch. Or should I say, not many people are able to do it.
Right. Yeah. I have conversations. People ask me because they know that I, came in and worked hard, but they see me take a vacation, or they see me, have actually, family time. And so they're like, how'd you do it? And to your point, I didn't do it part-time. Now, not to say you can't, right? There's some people that absolutely can, and some people that are going to be greatly successful by starting part-time, but it's a very difficult business to do part-time. And, I can't imagine having my quote unquote day job and having a buyer that needs to go see a house in this market where you have to get in when you can. Some houses that the showings fill up so fast, you take whatever time you can get. On the listing side, every single person that's going to show your house is probably going to call or text or email you or all three and say, do you have any offers? My client really likes the house. What do you need? You know, all the things, all the conversations that you have. And so, I mean, literally anytime a listing happens for me, my cell phone, you know, experience, if you will, goes up 300 to 600%.
Yeah.
You know, from all the conversations and stuff. And normally if I need to call someone that I talked to a few days ago, I can just click on the like recents and scroll and click it. Not when there's a new listing, because there's so many numbers in there. I'd be scrolling. It's just faster to hit the contacts button. So to do that and also be in your, you know, office, presumably you have an office job, or maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a nurse, you know, something like that, thinking about getting in real estate, it would be impossible. And ultimately it becomes a disservice to your client because they're losing bids or houses or offers or all the above by not being available. And so it can work. And I would never tell someone absolutely don't do it. I would just say it's going to be a lot easier if you can just jump right in.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we did. For good or for bad, we did it. And it was awesome. I mean, you know, like I said, we didn't know what we didn't know, which is sometimes, you know, being ignorance is bliss, right? Sometimes you realize quickly, like it's not exactly the way you kind of foresaw it. And we found that out, right? I quickly realized I didn't really want to build a brokerage. I really wanted to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, right, at that time, but you know, I was bogged down with brokerage stuff, right? And that's when we started talking with different people and ultimately made the move to Keller Williams. And it wasn't any fault of Nextome or anything like that. We just we kind of like were running before we were crawling. And you know, what I realized is I was banging my head against the wall trying to reinvent things because, again, I had never sold resale homes. I didn't know what I didn't know. And instead of reinventing the wheel, I realized that we could go somewhere, kind of learn from people who are willing to share and not reinvent the wheel, right? So we decided to do that. And Mark and I moved over to Keller Williams Domain, which is in Birmingham, because we were previously in Southfield. And we also thought, hey, if we're in Birmingham, we could do real estate anywhere, right? We didn't really realize that the hyper local part of it.
Well,
right?
It's so easy to get all those $1 million listings.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of
So
course.
I mean, you just be pulling down bank, and
you just
it's like everything else has been so easy so far. This is just about to get easier now, man. You're in Birmingham.
Yeah, exactly. You just have a good car, a flashy suit, and be in Birmingham, and before you know it, poof.
Yeah. Duh.
So, you know, we went through the trials and tribulations of having a team, and it's interesting because if anyone tells you it's easy, I would encourage them to go out and try and do it. We had great people, right? We had great people. Still, a few of them I'm very good friends with, and you know, I'm really, really glad to say, like, everyone that worked with us on our team is like super successful and still in the real estate business. But it has challenges, right? Everything from marketing to how do you service your people correctly? You know, you have to provide admin support and all these different things. And, you know, fast forward, we just looked in the mirror and we're like, is this really what we want right now? And would we be more successful and more profitable if we just kind of burn the team to the ground and just kind of went our own ways, individual agents? And that's what we did in 2019. God, that seems like so far ago. In 2019, I had moved myself to Keller Williams Advantage, which is in Novi, which made sense. I live in South Line, and that's where I met you. And I went to Novi and had some really great people there. And we just kind of went our own ways in terms of, we got rid of the Metro group and just went our own ways as individual agents. You know, since then it's been another growth learning experience. Of course, it has its pros, it has its cons, but I will tell anyone who says they want to build a team to really question why it is that you want to build a team. You know, is it because you think you're not going to have to work, right? And other people are going to do your bidding? That's not true. Is it because you want to make more money? You may be able to, but on the surface level, that is not true, right? So really, you know, why it is that you want to build a team. I think teams were all the rage, right? I'm starting to see a lot more, you know, people put on a pedestal that are single agents or that have a buyer's agent, a really strong admin, and are able to do business at a super high level. Many of them that you and I both know and I really respect, and they have got big businesses, and I guarantee you they're very profitable. So that's kind of where my shift have been. But I did miss the opportunity of working with a team, right? Being a solo agent, especially working from home, right, could be kind of lonely, right?
Sure.
And I say that kind of tongue in cheek because, both of us have kids and wife and all this stuff. So by no means are we sitting around bored by ourselves all the time, but it is lonely to be disconnected from other professionals. And that's when I was presented with an opportunity to take over the productivity coaching in my market center, which is not something that was even on my radar, that I didn't really think I was wanted to do or anything like that. But it was presented to me by the leadership in the office. And I looked at it as maybe this is an opportunity to kind of scratch that itch of being able to help people, right? But not necessarily have the team that you're responsible for, right? It's kind of a hybrid.
Yeah. They're still accountable for them. You can help hold them accountable. But if they are not accountable, it is not affecting your bottom line, other than the fact that you've invested some time that maybe could have been invested somewhere else, which is, time's the one asset we don't ever get back.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Signing up for to do so.
Yep, that's exactly it. So
can I rewind a little bit?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so to a couple of points. So you decided to start your own brokerage, and at that point, you obviously had to start figuring out who are you going to start a brokerage with. Mm-hmm. How did you go about that process? And then, of course, a year later, you decided, I don't want to be a broker. I want to be a team leader. And so I'm just going to let my particular brokerage kind of go to the wayside, for lack of a better term. And so now we're back at, well, where do I want to go work under? So you can fold those together, you can separate them. Mm-hmm. What's that process look like for you to try and figure out where to go? Because, I think that's an important aspect of real estate.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And, it always makes my head scratch now when I talk to new agents who join the first brokerage that they talk to. And, I think that you owe it to yourself as a new agent or as a experienced agent who wants to looking for something different. It's a big move to take. Some people take it lightly, or they say it's not a big deal to change brokerages, but it is. You've done it. I've done it. And I think that there's a spot for everyone. Right. And in what I did was lump my stereotypes of what I thought a brokerage was going to be like without even sitting down with them, without actually making an appointment to sit down with the ownership or the team leader or the broker or whoever it is that did recruiting, and ask them a lot of questions. Right. Instead of just going in and saying, sell me. Right. I think an agent should go into a brokerage and have a list of questions. They should be interviewing them. Is this a good place for my business? Right. Are you looking at me as just a number? Are you looking at me as an agent that you want to help grow and build? Are you looking, is this the type of environment that I want to be? Are my goals aligned with what you are able to do to help fulfill them? And we didn't do that at the time, and to this day, I still wonder sometimes, is there a great Remax office or a Century 21 office that would have been a really good fit? I think there is, right? But I was fortunate to jump into one that really was a good fit.
Did you interview a lot, or did you just happen to know someone and talked and said, okay, I'll join?
Yeah. So what did it for us is that we started talking with Keller Williams, with Natalie Reed and Jim Schaefer. Jim Schaefer was at the time with KW, and they invited us to go to Keller Williams Mega Camp, which is one of the annual events that they do back when we could travel and go to conventions, right? And that's what did it for me, because I was in a room with 10,000 other people that were like-minded, or, I thought were like-minded, and we're talking about things that I was it wasn't exposed to before. I suspect it probably would have been a similar feeling if I would have gone to a Remax convention or a big, convention, but it was a level that I was yearning to kind of learn from and grow, sponge from. And that's what did it for us. But what I realized in terms of going back to your question, the brokerage versus the team, the brokerage support that you need for agents and hiring agents and bringing on agents is different than a team aspect. When you're a broker and you bring on people, you can have certain levels of accountability, but at the end of the day, you're servicing them. Agents are going to come in and bring their business and do whatever business they want. When you have a team, you can actually have, accountability metrics to be able to say, you're going to be on this team if you do this, if you reach these, minimum standards, if you will. And that's kind of what we wanted, or so we thought at the time, because we wanted to provide leads and we wanted to provide this. And we also needed to justify a split. Of course, I didn't really know, what splits were there, because everyone's focused on that, right? Where are the splits and what are the expenses? So we went to KW, we try to follow the model, but ultimately we kind of, bucked the model a little bit, which for good or for bad, models are there for a reason, because smarter people than us have kind of figured it out, right? So you have to be very careful when you start, skewing it a little bit.
Right. No, absolutely. And by all means, you can kind of like promote, your brand as much as you wish, so because and for what it's worth, although I, left that brand and joined a different brand, it had nothing to do with anything other than a personal relationship opportunity. It had nothing to do with the company, because I've even had a couple of, new agents, as reach out to you or another friend, mutual friend, Fadi, and say, talk to them, because I think it's a great place to get your feet wet, because they'll, train you. And as much as I love my broker and myself, that's not our primary focus right now in our business model. Is to train. Yes, help, but train and help are two different things. And so, the systems are there. And if you follow the system, or if you at least understand it and make small adaptations, not drastic swooping changes, you can be successful. And so I guess that actually does kind of lead into what you started leading into with productivity coach, and maybe also some differences between brokerages. Because to your point, when I came to KW, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever join KW. My experience with a couple of agents were negative. And so therefore, and at that time I worked for a singular brokerage. There was not a franchise of any type. So I did not understand that the model could mean that this office over here is awesome, but this office over here is, and that's the case with every franchise, right? McDonald's, Subway, 7-Eleven, KW, EXP, it doesn't matter what business we're talking about. Some locations are better than others. And so it took a long time of talking to some people, talking to the recruiters, talking to agents that I knew, but I did not, have relationships with, about why did you go there? Why do you feel it's good? And then joined and never, ever looked back. It was like such a great decision at the time, and stuff like that. And so, you guys have an internal coaching model, as well as KW has their own coaching. And of course, people are welcome to join, any of the big or small coaches that are out there, whether it's the Tom and Mike Ferry or, anybody else, but you guys have your own, as well. But internally, as you're starting to say, you are one of the productivity coaches at the KW office. Why? Right? Because like I said, well, Matt, I'd love to talk to you about mentorship, leadership, coaching, things like that. Why is it so important to everybody? This isn't just a new agent thing. This is everybody benefits from these things. So,
spot on. No, I actually haven't really looked at it like that, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you. And I'll say why. But KW has the reputation, good or bad, right, of being we'll take anyone kind of model, right? And there's parts of me that likes that and hates that, because you think of we'll take the leftovers, right? But I think the reality of why that's come to be is because a lot of, especially the past few years where everyone's been very busy and productive, a lot of brokerages don't want to take on brand new people because what do they take? They take a lot of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of energy before you get a return. And I actually respect brokerages that say we're not looking to hire brand new people because they kind of know what they're able to provide and what they're not able to provide. So we get a lot of people that are brand new to real estate, right? As well as people that started at a brokerage and realized like there was no one there to help them or give them the kind of the basics. When I say help them, don't get me wrong, like not like transactionally, like, hey, how do you do this? It's like the foundation, right? We do a really terrible job in real estate overall, I think, of making it seem like our jobs are very simple
Mm-hmm.
and that we make a lot of money and it's very easy and anyone can do it. And that's backed up by the fact that you can take a, what is it? A 30-hour class, 40-hour class.
Yeah. 40 hours, pass
C
that
plus,
class, take your test, and
poof,
you got a license.
you're a real estate agent.
Yep.
And, and some people are very successful there, but the reality is we have a huge turnover in this business. And it's not because everyone that tries to do it is dumb or isn't capable. It's because expectations weren't set very well and they don't have support and guidance and a foundation to get their business started. I'm all about actually making the barrier to entry a little bit higher, because I think that we falsely tell people that they can come in and we don't say things like, you're probably not going to make a commission check for the first 6 months. I don't want to put that limiting belief on someone and say you're not capable of it. But the reality is, you're going to be working really hard in investing some time and money in your business and not getting anything. And that's why, like we said earlier, it's really hard for someone just to quit a job, right? You should have some savings. You should have a plan, right? Before you quote unquote burn the boats.
Well, I always tell somebody, I mean, an absolute perfect scenario. I got my license and I'm allowed to sell real estate today. Mm-hmm. And then on today, I have a friend who's looking to buy a house and we write an offer and we get it accepted. So day one in the business, I got it accepted. Likely 30 to 45 days before I get paid.
Yep.
And it's not likely that you're leaving a job that was the case.
Yeah.
Well, that's the perfect scenario, which is highly unlikely. Even if you have that friend who wants to go looking at houses today, the odds of them finding that house and or getting that offer accepted on day one are still low. So, besides the fact that I've not met somebody yet who walked in and on day one wrote a deal because they had a client that day. It takes some period of time. And even if that's only a few weeks, now we're talking 2 or 3 months before you get your first paycheck.
Yeah.
And to your point, 6 months is pretty reasonable. And it's also still unobtainable for a lot of people. So, yeah.
And when you get that first commission, it doesn't mean that that's the start of every 2-week commission like everyone's used to, right? With a regular job, quote unquote job. There's never a guarantee of where that next one's coming from, right? So it's a challenge. But again, I think we do a really bad job of painting that picture for people and thinking, come on in, right? Come on over, you'll be great. And that's why 1 out of 10 people are successful. However, if you have a program, all right, a vetting system, but also a program that really addresses the foundation, right, the very beginning, you'll set yourself agents up for higher success or higher chances of being successful, and that's what our productivity coaching program does. And to your point about different brokerages, I look at it like a fraternity. I was in a fraternity in college, right, and I was a Sigma Chi. And it's funny because like at Western, I was a Sigma Chi. At U of M, the Sigma Chi's there might be in like complete dorks, people that I wouldn't have connected with, right? They're good people, but they're not like me. But that's like how the brokerages are, right? You could have a KW over here that has great leadership that I go with, I connect to. And the KW in commerce is completely different culture, completely different environment, same company, but like different feel, right? And that's why it's important to figure out where's your tribe of people, right? Where are the people that you're going to be, you're going to enjoy being around and be successful with. So our productivity coaching program really starts with launch, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's supposed to give the agents the foundation to the business. Before you get into like crazy scripting and all these different things, it's just like, what does a real estate agent do? And I think that that's a funny thing to even talk about, the fact that like, the reality is we just think we go around, show houses, get commission checks, right? But we don't talk about the putting together of the database, the lead generation, the talking to your people, learning the contracts, learning, how to present an offer, even if you have a client that wants to see a house tomorrow, how do you even go do that, right? What app do you have? Like the real foundation stuff. And then from there, it kind of graduates to the next level, the next level, the next level, until they start having transactions under their belt. So our market center now helps them with the first 2 years. That's our productivity coaching program, is the first 2 years. And I'm proud to say we contribute our agents in coaching. We contribute about 25% of the overall revenue of our market center from agents in our coaching program. And it's myself. I've Sharon Pareto, who's another agent, and also a productivity coach. And then we recently brought on Emily Meiselbach. And Emily is a launch coach. She helps brand new agents, and she's actually a graduate of the coaching program herself. So it's a big part of our market center, of what we do. I know a lot of market centers around the country have, some are smaller, some are bigger, but it really works for us. And it's allowed me to kind of scratch that itch, right, of helping agents. Yeah. Because there's nothing, like I said earlier, like as much as I like working from home, right, this has been a weird shift, and I never really liked working from home. I like working from home. I also like that connection with people. I like being able to take a phone call, help someone work through an issue. I like, being able to be part of someone's success, even if it's a small part. There's something that's really gratifying for that, for me. And of course, it's I don't do it pro bono. I'm my success. Their success is my success. So it's a good alignment with kind of what I'm doing as I continue my path as being a solo agent.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. I mean, I've always enjoyed helping, agents, especially a newer agent, sharing experiences, things like that, as best as possible. It's definitely something that more offices need. And this is absolutely not a shot at, say, EXP, but a lot of people are saying, well, we have virtual, trainings and virtual this and virtual that. And those are all great, but they're just not the same as like an actual person that you can talk to or be with or what have you. Yeah. And on top of that, if I'm like kind of in a crunch for something, a YouTube video, for example, is only so helpful. What if 5 YouTube videos all start by telling me how to like loosen the lug nut, but I don't even know what tool we're supposed to use, and none of them told me the tool, right? Yeah. So the YouTube video is now useless, even though it's so helpful if I knew that damn tool, right? Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I look at the virtual training. I think it's great that there's thousands of videos on there, from coaching to, how to do something or whatever, just like a YouTube. And again, EXP is not the only one that's doing this. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you guys have some, recorded videos for people to watch too. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you need humans, right? Mm-hmm. And so coaching is like super important. Mentorship, leadership, assistance, whatever phrase you want to put on it, because there is a lot to know. And we certainly, just like real school, right? Talk to your engineering friends, computer programmers, nurses, lawyers. It doesn't matter what you do. You don't learn it all in your schooling, even when you do 13 years of it, mm-hmm. Let alone when you only do 40 hours. And so you need to, learn, and there's no better way to learn than someone who's actually been through the process. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially right now, I mean, quite well how challenging this market is, and what challenging specifically from a lot of perspectives, but a lot from buyers. And it was interesting. Last weekend, I had a really successful new listing that it was Novi that just had a crazy amount of activity. And it was interesting because we received 24 offers on that listing, and it was bananas. But the reason I bring this up is because a few of the offers were from respectable agents that are solo, like, are not, when I say solo, like own their own brokerage, right? That are kind of in their own little bubble. Yeah. And it was interesting seeing how they wrote up an offer, right? Compared to someone who, even a newer agent that was like in an office where a lot of people were obviously masterminding and sharing experiences, and how much more competitive those newer agents offers were, because they were more in tune with what was going on right now in this market. And I think it goes back to like, a Monday morning meeting talking about experiences. What did it take to win this deal? What did it take to, Mr. Agent in our office who's a listing agent, what are you seeing people offer? Like, let's talk together, right? To share experiences to better help our clients together, right? Rather than being in a silo by yourself, kind of blissfully unaware of what's going on, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. When you're not, even if you're out in the world of real estate, if you're not really around real estate, you're not going to fully understand it. I mean, we all learn new things, regularly. I won't go complete hyperbole and say daily, but we all learn things regularly, and there's new experiences and things like that. And if I'm not surrounded by others, then to your point, I guess let's look at something like the appraisal guarantee or escalation clause, which is almost commonplace now. Yeah. And yet 3 or 4 years ago, I felt like when I sent one, I had to send a separate email explaining what an appraisal guarantee and an escalation clause was.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
A lot of people were not using them. And, credit to the people that trained me about it, because they were early adapters, right? Mm-hmm. And it just came up recently with somebody that I talked to. They're like, I just got 10 offers on this property. Is this normal? Because they don't do a lot of resale. They do a lot of like new construction for their company and stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty normal. And she was basically asking me to help her look at the few offers to see why one might be better than another, because she knows I'm dealing with it more regularly,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can run your own place, and that's great. And I'm not saying anything against you or it, but it may have its own detriments, it may not. We don't know for sure.
Yeah. And I think, everybody in real estate, especially the ones that have been around for a while, they like to talk about their years of experience. And, there's how many memes about it and that kind of thing. Right. But the reality is, I don't really think that like, if someone does 10 deals a year or does 50 deals a year, that person that does 50 is necessarily more aware of what's going on. As long as that person who's doing 10 is showing up to meetings, is talking to people from other brokerages. I mean, just you and I talking from different brokerages. I mean, well, because we're friends, but also just to raise the bar in real estate overall, right?
Right.
Are you a member of a Facebook group with other agents talking and sharing, right, and supporting each other? Do you do a mastermind, right, with other agents that are outside of your brokerage or even outside of your market, right? Are you in tune with what's going on versus just in your own little bubble because you think, I know it all, my brokerage is the best, or, there's so much shame in that. And I think we're doing our clients a disservice by not like letting our guard down a little bit, because at the end of the day, most of my clients, they don't overlap too much with a lot of other people's, right? We don't have a lot of, we're competition, but not really. Right. Yeah. And it's only going to help each other and our clients if we talk about those things and help each other and lift each other up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if we aren't, and we only look at each other as competition, then we're trying to slice each other's throats. It just makes our entire industry suffer, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
There's a difference between trying to win and trying to cut, and we all are looking to win the offer or the job or whatever it is. But you do it the right way, and everybody looks better, and the client at least walks away with a good experience, whether it's, me, you, or somebody else. Right. And at the end of the day, that's the most important part, is that the person who's buying or selling or leasing or whatever it is that they're doing has a great experience. I mean, our business doesn't continue to exist without us doing a good job.
Yeah. And we're not, and you, me, all the other even the top agents in our little market center, our market, our little area, like, we're not going to be putting each other out of business. We are fighting over, what we think is what's to come of the business. In the meantime, there's outside factors that are really what we should be worried about, right? By uniting to, combat them.
Yeah. Well, and getting back to coaching and stuff, I mean, that's one of the benefits of coaching is in some coaching experiences, the coach is actually no longer practicing, but
Yeah.
that still has its own advantage and disadvantage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the advantage would be with them not practicing, if they're dedicating their career to the coach, to the coaching, then they are able to focus on that solely. And so they can help all the time with everything, presumably, you know, and with the bigger firms and like your internal, you know, coaching and stuff like that, the only way you get to that and even get to be interviewed is by having a proven track record that exists. Because there's a lot of ways to do real estate, right? You can cold call people, you can door knock, you can, you know, put Facebook posts out there, you can pay advertising, you can sit back and hope that the phone rings. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. And the right kind of coach or coaching can help you succeed in whatever it is that you choose, other than maybe sit back and wait for the phone to ring. Can really make that happen.
Sure.
But everything in between, right? That's where the coaching comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when you think of coaching for like new and your personal purposes, newer agents into your brokerage, which is called a market center for Keller Williams. But in general, you know, Michael Jordan had no less than 5, you know, coaches outside of Phil Jackson at all times, from nutrition to a psychologist to, you know, a shooting coach. You know, imagine Michael Jordan with a shooting coach. Yeah, well, he had one, you know. So imagine, you know, the quote $1 million agent with a coach. He probably has one, or she probably has one, you know. And I guess that was, you know, some of the fun, you know, or some of the purpose of like talking with you is because like it's important that everyone understands that coaching isn't just coaching or mentorship or whatever isn't just like brand new agent. It's like everybody, you know, and we all can benefit from it. And there's a lot of options out there, you know?
Yeah. And as you grow, you know, your own business and yourself as an individual, you know, seek out those people that you want to aspire to be like, right. And that what I learned, what I thought as a young person is like, that has to be the perfect model of a person. And the reality is it doesn't. It can be the perfect person that you want to model your real estate business after, and then the perfect person that you want to model your finances after, and then the perfect person that you want to model your family life after, and your nutrition and health, right? Those can be different people. And, you know, you just have to seek out those people, right? And get that coaching, mentorship, whatever it is from them, because no one's going to do it for you. Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful to be able to be part of agents, at least in their beginning foundational years, being successful agents, because, you know, this business is really simple. It really is. It's just not easy. And I know that seems like kind of silly, but it really is. I mean, what we do is not overly complicated. I mean, but again, you know, compared to a nurse, a doctor, right? Someone who's actually, you know, live or die, you know, situation. It's not easy to do. And that's why people, you know, think that like they can come in and just, you know, do it and be successful overnight. And it doesn't happen overnight. And the people that, you know, you're learning from, you know, it's important to find out what were their trials and tribulations, because anybody that's successful in this business has failed plenty of times leading up to it. Right. So I just try to share my experiences with people, so maybe it can help them avoid some of the same mistakes I made, you know, but sometimes people have to make those mistakes themselves too.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to make mistakes. It doesn't matter who you're surrounded with.
Yeah.
It's a part of life and a part of business. And learning from those mistakes and learning from the non-mistakes, right? If you did something well, you learn from that and you try to do that and replicate that again and again and again. And then when you do make the mistake in there, well, then you learn from that and combine those two experiences now, you know, and you just keep doing that over and over. Yeah, it is. It might sound like either cliche or like a BS line, but like you said, the business itself, it is a simple business and it's not an easy business for a lot of reasons. And, you know, interacting with all the people that you interact with, and the fact that we have very legal language on the table, you know, like we do it all the time. So we don't think much of a 6, 7, 8 page purchase agreement being, oh, you know, it's a contract. Okay, cool. But like think about what you just said and look at the 30 to 40 items in there, and each of those means something. And should it ever come up, a lawyer looks at every single one of those to figure out how to rip you apart, you know? And so while those are few and far between for most of us anyways, you know, like these are part of what we're doing, and part of why we had to take some classes, we have to take continuing education, and why you want to be a part of a good place that understands those things, you know.
Absolutely.
Because it couldn't be more important. It could come up really big down the road.
Yeah, on one hand, which is why I love this business, is because again, I never saw, like, for me, I wouldn't want to be in sales unless I was selling something that I was like super passionate about. So other than houses, I think like supercars would probably be the next coolest thing. Right. But we're not selling widgets. We're not selling, something that someone doesn't need, right? We are helping people with for most people, the biggest investment that they'll ever make. And with that comes an incredible amount of responsibility. And like you said, sometimes you just gloss over the terms of a purchase agreement or the legal, ramifications of doing some things or not doing some things. And that's a big thing that unfortunately will catch up to you if you don't.
Absolutely. Especially as we have to get kind of creative with offers, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember where I was at, but I was like, you probably want to talk to your broker about this. Somebody asked a question. I think it was in a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And they were like, how would you write this appraisal guarantee? And I'm like, I would write it however my broker approves me to write it, because, like what I say, what you say might be similar, but slightly different. And at the end of the day, going back to another reason why you probably no longer want to be a broker and why I have no interest in being a broker, if we mess that up, yeah, it's on us, but it's on the broker first.
For sure.
And it could be a really big deal.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because what I found is like a lot of agents in coaching and just in the office, right? They were, every single time they were writing an offer, they were reinventing the wheel, right? So we, together with my broker, came together and wrote all those clauses and had him approve them, and have a shared doc for all of the agents in our office. Before you go and rewrite, or write it from scratch, copy and paste this, change the numbers, right? This is the broker approved language, because you've got a bunch of cowboys out there playing lawyer. It could end badly. And, I don't know about you on the list side, right? Sometimes you get an offer and it's got a clause or an addendum in it. And you're like, I know what you're trying to do here, but this isn't really protecting your client, man.
Well, I think the appraisal guarantee is the big one, right? The language is really important, because if I just say we'll give you $10,000 above appraisal, technically speaking, you've agreed that if the appraisal comes in $50,000 low, we're going to give you $10,000 above it. We could have some problems.
Yep.
Conversely, if I just leave it very open-ended and I've received them like that, I had to call and say, so it's just 30,000 above anything. So if it appraises at 250, you're going to give me 280 now. And in one instance, the guy said, yes, we are giving you $30,000 above any appraisal. And I said, okay, well, it's a pretty good offer then. So let me talk to my client, But yeah, I mean, they may not have meant that. And as we're hammering these things out kind of quickly, because, highest and best is due 10 hours after it went on the market sometimes. And even 24 hours, that means it takes time to write it, send it to the client, then send it back. I send it to you, so we're still hammering them out. We got to remember that we're dealing with very specific terms that might be a problem down the road, if you don't include that your floors and your ceilings and stuff like that. And I mean, like, floor on an appraisal guarantee, like the lowest, and the ceiling on the highest. Or I guess in theory, if you're not including floors and ceilings in the house, right? Because we're seeing people say weird stuff now, like, well, we're going to take this because it's, it's a treasure. And I'm like, well, then why is it up? Take it down now so we don't have to see the house with it. So
yeah, exactly.
It's interesting stuff, man.
It really is interesting times. It's funny though, because going back to when I started in real estate, the market that we're in right now, for those of you, or for those of us who are making a career out of this is just a blip, right? This is a short period of time. And if you're winning from it, great, enjoy it. but just know it's not going to be like this forever. And it's going to go like this again and again and again. And no one's got a crystal ball. We don't know when that's going to happen or to what extent it is. But, you know, you should be always thinking about what's the next market, right? Obviously, you want to do a great job for your clients in this market, but inevitably, if you've made a career out of this isn't just a job, right? If you've made a career out of this, or you're making a career out of this, you know, you always have to be prepared for the next. And that includes playing nice in the sandbox. I mean, you know, it's getting a little brutal out there. Agents are doing whatever they can to get their offers accepted or to get their clients the first ones in. I heard a story last week. A client had, a buyer's agent made an appointment about 4:00 to see a property. He thought he would get in at 1:00. He went in, scared the hell out of the sellers who were still there. And you know, that's not running early. 3 hours is,
right.
But you know, there's some dirty play on the playground, and it's going to come full circle, especially those of us who are going to survive this. You know, you're going to be, if I'm trying to get an offer accepted for you, chances are the tables will turn shortly as well. And the relationships you make, the bridges you don't burn, are going to benefit you and your clients in the future.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In fact, another, agent from your office, friend of each of ours, Daniel Narado.
Yeah.
He called me one time on a listing of mine, and it was less than 3 weeks later. That listing, he had a listing, and those clients wanted to see his listing. And so imagine if I'd have blown him off or given him some shady answers or whatever. And now I need to call him because now he's got the hot property that everybody wants to see, including my client, and so it's funny. I do my best to answer the phone whenever anyways, but whenever there's a listing, I always try to get to that phone because I know it could be any number of people. And it's funny how many people will say to me, "Thank you for calling me back."
Yeah. Isn't that funny in this day and age? Or "Thank you for answering your phone." It's like, wow, how bad is it out there where you're thanking me just for answering my phone?
Yeah. It's really, I mean, if that's the bar, no wonder people think it's so easy. It's like the bar was answering the phone. Jeez.
Yeah. And if they're not doing that with other agents, what are they doing with clients or not doing with clients?
Yeah. And that comes up a lot, and I think, I don't think anyone who's thinking about signing up with a real estate agent is probably in at an hour at this point. But if they are, it's great for them to know, like, if your agent is failing you, yes, you have a contract and you can cancel that contract.
Yeah.
And while I hope that doesn't mean every time that somebody, calls at 11, by 11:01, they want to cancel contracts because they didn't answer, it's like, I've gotten clients that they go, "Oh, I was in this 6-month contract. My agent sucked and they didn't show me houses. And then when they did, we couldn't write an offer. And then when we did, we couldn't get accepted," and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that is really a crazy experience you just told me. You didn't have to be in that 6-month contract. You could have fired them, and it's easy, but not easy. But, just tell the agent and or call the broker and tell them, "Hey, Joe Muck is doing a terrible job and I can't work with him anymore," Most people are going to figure a way out,
Yeah. I pride myself on my customer service, but at the end of the day, if someone doesn't want to work with me or if it's not working, let's not work together, because that's, it's probably not a great experience for either of us. So
yeah. Well, why, personally, I mean, I do really short-term contracts and just say, Matt, we're going to do a 2-week deal or, a 35-day listing. And by all means, if we don't have it under contract in 30 or 40 days, but I'm doing a good job and we like each other, we can extend, but if at the end of that time, you feel like I've not done a good job, well, then you can move on very easily, So, it's pretty crazy. And there are, unfortunately, some unscrupulous people, especially when there's big money involved. I mean, this happens. It happened with Enron, and it's happened, we have new laws because of people trying to take advantage of money. And fortunately, there can be a lot of money in this business. And therefore, unfortunately, it leads to some people being bad. And, there's like 1.5 or 1.6 million agents. So it's like one of those things where even if we say, well, 1% is bad, that's a big number of people that's bad.
Yeah, exactly. But if you and I the agents that we're friends with and we associate with all are committed to raising that bar. I think we're going to weed those agents out in time. And, we just we don't accept, that it's not just the level of commitment people want to have the job if they want to be part-time or full-time, but that bar, right, of what's acceptable or not, what's ethical or not. Like if we don't, we just simply don't accept, being subpar, that's what we're doing, as part, our part, rather than sitting back and just kind of, watching it happen. So.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know you're a big proponent of that. We're members of a lot of these Facebook groups with just agents, right? Where we just talk about experiences and things. And what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And at the end of the day, it's always about doing the right thing, the ethical thing, right? Even if it doesn't mean that it's that you make money, right?
Yep.
Because if we keep that mentality above all, the money will come, right?
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. Just focus on the right priorities and you'll get there.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't get caught up. Yeah. When somebody, undercuts you by doing something, right or wrong, it sucks. So throw your hands up in the air, swear or whatever it is that you do. And, walk real quick. And within 5 minutes, just get back to it because it's not that big a deal. Life will go on and you'll continue to be successful. But if you're focusing on this one event, even if that event happens every 4 months, if you focus on it, you're focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah. And I think right now, if you're an agent that's struggling to get your buyer's offers accepted or struggling to get listings because listings inventory is so low, if you're reaching some level of success right now, I think that you're gonna be successful in the long term. If this is like boot camp, if you can make this hell week, right, you're gonna be successful. So just keep your head up. And sometimes it's you need to commiserate with other agents a little bit, but then you dust yourself off and you go back out there and you get it. So
yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with bitching and moaning here and there, right? And especially because it kind of does bring up, it makes you also sometimes realize that you're not the only one.
Yes.
And especially in a competitive marketplace, if 24 offers were written on a nice property and Novi for you, they could have all been it could have been the top 24 agents in Michigan. Okay. So presumably good people, good agents.
Yeah. Yep.
But only one of them got the deal. So there were 23 that didn't, which means 23 people had letdowns for themselves, for their clients, for whatever. And there's no reason to, bang your head about that. Again, you can throw your hands up in the air, or you can, kick rocks or whatever it is that you do for a couple seconds. And then you get back out there and you show that next good Novi property or Northville property or whatever, and you write another solid offer. And sooner or later it gets accepted. And, there's something weird in this industry. I don't know if it's God. I don't know if it's just fate. I don't know if it's how the world turns. I don't know. Okay. You can determine that for yourself, but something about things happening for a reason. And when you don't get the house that you thought was the house of your dreams, and then the right house coming along, and maybe for a better price, or maybe for this, or maybe for that, somehow or another it works out better. And it's an amazing thing, but it just seems to happen time and time again.
Sorry, man. Apparently today's the first mowing of the season.
I saw something coming up. I was like looking over your shoulder, like, did I need to warn him about an intruder coming to his house?
This is leverage. I stopped mowing my lawn so I could, because my $1 per hour was in excess of mowing my lawn. Although
there you go.
Not happy with the job they typically do, but whatever.
All that money from being a realtor,
Yeah, just endless amount. Joe, I appreciate you inviting me on and talking a little bit about my experiences and stuff like that. And I love what you're doing here. I love your conversations you're having. Keep it up. I think, like I said, just bridging the gap between agents, between brokerages, between people that are out there kind of fighting the same fight is only going to help each other and our clients.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I greatly appreciate you joining on. And, we're still fairly early in the year, so I hope it's a great, year for you and your family as well. And hopefully, since we're in the same town, we'll come cross paths and maybe grab a beer or something sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure. I hope the next listing I submit an offer on is one of yours. So
sounds good, man. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate the time, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.